Last summer, my friend Rachel threw a huge house party while her parents were out of town. It was one of those wild nights where people you barely know show up, and half the house feels like it's about to collapse from the music and the crowd. I was hanging out in the kitchen when someone mentioned the locked door in the basement. Apparently, Rachel's parents had told her never to open it, but she joked about how she'd always wanted to know what was inside. A group of us decided to check it out. The basement was colder than I expected, and the door was easy to find, solid wood with a heavy padlock on it. Someone found a toolbox nearby, and after some convincing, Rachel let us break the lock. The second we opened the door, the air changed. It smelled damp, like something had been rotting down there for years. The room beyond was pitch black, so we used our phone flashlights to look around. At first, it seemed empty, just concrete walls and some old furniture. But then someone screamed. In the far corner of the room, there was a figure crouched on the floor. At first, we thought it was a mannequin or some kind of prank, but then it moved. Slowly, its head turned toward us, and its eyes reflected the light like an animal's. It let out this low, guttural sound that made my chest tighten. We all bolted upstairs, slamming the door behind us. Rachel was shaking as she locked it again, and none of us dared to go back down. She hasn't thrown another party since, and no one talks about what we saw that night. It was a typical house party at my friend Mia's place. Her parents had just remodeled the house, and she was showing off the new bathroom upstairs. A few of us went up to check it out because, honestly, it was nicer than most people's living rooms. The centerpiece was this massive antique mirror they'd found at an estate sale. It stretched from the floor to the ceiling and had this old, ornate frame that made it look like something out of a haunted house. Later in the night, I went back up to use the bathroom. The hallway was empty, and the noise from the party was muffled. As I washed my hands, I glanced at the mirror and froze. There was a girl standing behind me. She was pale, with long dark hair, and her face was turned slightly away, so I couldn't see her eyes. I spun around, but no one was there. My heart was racing as I stared at the empty bathroom, but when I looked back at the mirror, she was still there, closer this time. I ran out of the bathroom and grabbed Mia, telling her what I'd seen. She went pale and whispered, "I've seen her too." She told me the mirror came with the house, and that her mom had been acting weird about it ever since they brought it inside. We tried to convince ourselves it was just a trick of the light, but that night, Mia covered the mirror with a sheet. She said she didn't want to see what else might show up. It was supposed to be just another house party. My friend Tyler's parents were gone for the weekend, so he invited everyone over. The house was huge, with a finished basement that had a pool table and a bunch of old furniture. A group of us went downstairs to hang out, and for a while, everything was fine. But then I noticed someone sitting on the couch in the corner. He didn't look like anyone I'd seen at the party. Tall, with messy hair and clothes that looked too big for him. He was sitting perfectly still, staring at the wall. I nudged Tyler and asked, "Who's that guy?" Tyler glanced over and froze. "I don't know him," he said. We both walked over to ask if he was okay, but before we got there, he stood up and walked toward the laundry room. When we followed, he was gone. We searched the entire basement, but there was no sign of him. Tyler looked shaken and told me to forget about it. Later, as people were leaving, I stayed to help him clean up. When we went back downstairs, the couch in the corner was gone, like it had never been there. Tyler swore it was just a weird coincidence, but I haven't been back to his house since.